My name is John Tagg. On behalf of myself and Aurelia Carter, we would like to recognize our town hall meeting sponsors, the City County Task Force on Disabilities and Oakland for All Beyond Accessibility, in collaboration with the Mayor's Office. The rules of engagement are simple. Let's be respectful of each other. At this time, I would like to introduce the Honorable Mayor Ed Gainey for a few remarks and introduction of his staff in attendance. Mayor.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Before I begin, I want to pay respect to the council president who is here today, and I want to thank her for being here. She is the council president. She's been wonderful and a great partner. But I wanted to come up and say a couple words before we get started. So, there she goes. Councilwoman Teresa Kell Smith.
Mayor steps out of the way for me. Thank you so much. I just really want to thank Mayor Gainey and his team. This is such a great start to being a city for all. And I can tell you that I did a lot of work with Pittsburgh Public Schools, Aurelia, and Tina, doing a lot of work with our disability communities, differing abilities communities, and especially with Pioneer School. I actually won an award from the Education Law Center for my work in the disability community. But I can just say that it starts with the conversations like this, but then it takes action. And I'm really confident that this mayor wants to see some action. And I really want to thank him for having this meeting, and for all of you for being here, because I know it's not always easy navigating our roads in our area. So thank you very much. And thank you, Mayor. This is a huge, great start. And as an advocate for the community, I'm extremely thankful. No, I'm good. I don't want to sit here. I want this to be the mayor's show. I'm good. No, I'm good. But I also want to acknowledge Ricky Moody from our office as well as here. So thank you, Ricky.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's town hall on creating a disability-friendly city. Before I get started, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. I really do. This means a lot for me to have you here. We wanted to have this earlier, but as you can imagine, we had a whole lot of challenges coming in to this administration. So for you to be here today, I just want to say thank you. By coming to this town hall, each and every one of you will help us to create a lasting impact in Pittsburgh and help my administration build a city that is friendly and accessible to all. I want to thank Tina, who I've known for over 20 years. I want to thank John, and while I know she is in here, Leah, for their incredible work coordinating with my team to make tonight possible. My administration has always been focused on listening, and for people that's known me in the past, you know that I just don't listen. I do like to get things done. I believe that you have to get things done to make this a city for all. Planning and working collaboratively with our partners to make the best decisions possible. Tonight, I'm looking forward to hearing from each and every one of you so that we can do better, plan with you, and make this a city that is livable with people with disability, caregivers, and every family member's opportunity to thrive. In fact, while it is not my place to share who or what, I can tell you that we have multiple members on the 5th floor who have disabilities, and I'm thankful for their perspective every day. I'm thankful for it. For me, it is necessary to have diversity in my administration, and for y'all to know, you can look at my administration, it's extremely diverse. I want my administration to look like the city we all want to see. And so it's important to me that we have diversity. And this is the most diverse administration that the mayor's office has ever seen. And I'm very proud of that. This is something I challenge each and every one of you here to do. Our disability community should be diverse in age, gender, race, sexuality, and types of disability. Because when you empower a diverse set of voices, we can truly center the most marginalized communities. I believe that, I've seen it, and I think everyone here has seen it. For far too long, only some voices have made it in the halls of city government. And for far too long, the voices of the disability advocates and Pittsburghers with disability have been neglected. Why is that important to me? A lot of times we have these meetings. We have these meetings. And after the meeting is over, nothing happens. Just goes back to status quo. This is a little different because we started before we had this meeting. We started having you meet with departments, different departments in the city. So there wasn't just me saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. We allowed the agenda to be executed before we met with you. and then to listen to you to find out how we can continue to develop it. So that way we can't say it's the same old song. I wanted to go first and show you before I asked you. I think going first and showing people that we have a commitment to it is how you gain people's support. And I think working together is how we grow in regards to what type of city we want to see. So it was important that we went first so that you could see, not just here. This is, gotta flip the page. In my administration, we will make sure that disability justice is front and center in all our work. I asked the task force to identify a few focus areas for tonight's town hall so that you can work with us to help shape the vision for the disability-friendly city. We're looking forward to this. Earlier this year, DOMI met with advocates, and we are committed to having these regular meetings with all of our departments and the task force. We have allocated $300,000 in next year's budget for a disability study with the Department of City Planning to assess where we are as a city and to ensure full compliance with ADA. That's in our budget for next year. So as you can see again, we're going first. Before we even met, we started the process. I want to introduce my team, but so I don't forget nobody, right? Best way to do it is I'm going to ask my team to stand up. I'm going to start from the back with Maria and go around, and everybody can introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, my name is Mario Montano and I'm the Mayor's Press Secretary.
Hi everybody, I'm Pam Culver and I serve as Special Assistant to Mayor Gainey.
Hi everyone, I'm Dan Wasserman and I'm Sorry, I'm Felicity Williams, Deputy Chief of Staff for Mayor Gainey.
I'm Lisa Frank. I'm the Chief Operating and Administrative Officer.
Hi, Catherine Vargas, Department of Parks and Recreation Director. Laura Dragowski, I'm the Manager of the City's Office of Community Health and Safety.
So first, I just want to thank my team for being here. I appreciate it. We're going to get started. I know I'm going to turn it over to Felicity in a second. But again, I just want to express my gratitude and say thank you. Two, I look forward to listening. I want to listen and understand how we can create a common agenda, an agenda that we can both see that's moving forward together. And that's how we can evaluate progress. And so in our office, we say we want the data to be able to push how far we've come. And so whatever initiatives we come up with, any issues that we feel like that we can address together, we will measure so you can see for yourself how far we come. So that you can understand that we're not just about to talk, but we're actually about doing what we say that we want to get done. And let me say this, none of it is easy. None of it is easy. Changing a system is not easy at all. So I need you to walk with us. I'm not asking you to be patient with us because I can understand that this has been a long time in the making. So I can understand the impatience. But like I understand the impatience, I also need you to understand that changing a system is not easy. And when you change it one move at a time, sometimes that takes a minute to do. But we here. And like I said, you met with DOMI. I know you're meeting with some other departments. We'll continue to meet until we get it right. I just need everybody to know that we will work at it, but this is not something that there's no blueprint. We didn't have a book. We're coming in and we're establishing a plan as we go. Thank you. Felicity.
Alrighty, thank you, Mayor. Good evening. I want to echo a lot of the Mayor's comments that we are really excited to be here with you. We're really excited to see all of you that are here in person, as well as I think it's up to 107 people that are on Zoom. So we definitely exceeded our expectations in turnout tonight, which is a great testament to how passionate the community is and how important of an issue this is. I did want to just reiterate who the staff members are in attendance because they are not mic'd. The folks on Zoom weren't able to hear that information. So I'm just going to do this relatively quickly. Catherine Vargas is here as our Director of Parks and Recreation. Maria Montano, the mayor's press secretary. Pam Collier, special assistant to the mayor. Sam Wasserman, communications manager. Zeke Redeker, executive advisor on legal policy for the mayor. Chief of staff, Jake Wheatley. As I said, I'm Deputy Chief of Staff Felicity Williams. We have Lisa Frank, Chief Operations and Administrative Officer. We have Laura Dragowski from the Office of Community Health and Safety. We already recognized the councilwoman, and she recognized Ricky Moody, who's here from City Council as well. I think that covers, oh, and one more, Chrisara Johnson. She's gonna be important later because she's gonna help facilitate some Q&A. She is right here. She was part of helping you all sign in when you came in the room. So as John started out, I just want to go over a little bit of meeting format and norms. You heard John say this, and we agree with him first and foremost about showing each other respect. We are all very passionate about these issues, and we may have different viewpoints and opinions, and we can all share those and have a space where everyone's can be acknowledged and uplifted. We ask that you please save questions for the end after our panel members have talked about highlighting some of the 4 or 5 areas that they have identified as priority topic issues. We will ask you to line up to speak here. I think it's about 5 at a time when the moderator, who as I said is going to be Chrisara Johnson, calls your name. We do have some volunteers if you need assistance getting to the podium. Unfortunately, we cannot move those microphones, but we have tried to make that as accessible as possible. You can use either microphone there. And again, if you need assistance, we have volunteers to help you. We don't. We ask that you limit your comments to about 1 minute. That way we can hear from everyone in attendance, because we will be alternating not only from people in the room, but folks on Zoom as well. And then wanted to also make sure that you all know if anyone wants to make public comment after tonight and that you did not, you can please email neighbor@pittsburghpa.gov. I'm going to say that one more time. neighbor@pittsburghpa.gov, or call 311. The 311 team knows to route this feedback back to the mayor's office as well. And one last one that I want to make sure I don't forget, we have Councilwoman Strasburger on the Zoom with us as well, so wanted to make sure that we acknowledged her attendance here tonight, as well as the council president. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to our facilitators to start talking about our topic areas. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Felicity. The disability community is here today because nothing about us without us. Pittsburgh for All includes people with all types of disabilities represented in our city initiatives from the beginning. A disability-friendly city for residents, people who come into this city for work and recreation, and they will visit our city as tourists and also as conventioneers. I'd like to hand it over to Aurelia, our co-facilitator. Aurelia?
Good evening, everybody. A disability-friendly city is entirely accessible and inclusive. It also removes existing barriers, has no discrimination, and equal access policies regarding housing, transportation, employment, information technology, and government services. Conducts planning with all of its users in mind, involves people with disabilities in all stages of planning to ensure input on exclusion and barriers. And I'm just going to add the point to say they should be being involved at the very beginning and not to the middle and not at the end. But the city has taken some positive steps in recent years. Recent sidewalk dining ordinances, including appropriate right-of-way, the mayor's transition plan, which included priorities for improving conditions of sidewalks, housing / inclusionary zoning. There has been police training for interacting for people with disabilities interacting with people that have disabilities over many years. The city also committed to regular meetings between the city-county task force and other department heads. And lastly, the mayor has requested $300,000 for ADA self-evaluation plan and improvement in the 2023 budget. And those are some good steps, and we're looking forward to seeing more. To move forward, just to say what this town hall will focus on, it will actually focus on 4 issues that are very important to this community. Reimagining and strengthening the ADA office. Currently, we don't have an ADA coordinator anymore, from my understanding. Accessibility and mobility is pretty much important to everybody. Public safety. As we know, there at some point will be a new chief coming in. Again, there should be nothing without us, without us, and we should be included in those discussions, in those rooms, to give a perspective. And lastly, very important, Mayor Ed, you know, we go back, so I know how long you've been doing your thing around affordable housing. It should be affordable, accessible, and here's the last part of this that we don't have on it: safe. And everybody should be able to live safe. So with that, I'm going to hand off to Mark and Tina.
I'm Tina Calabro, and this is my son, Mark Steidel. We're going to talk about the ADA office in the city.
We are here to talk about reimagining and strengthening the city's office for the Americans with Disabilities office. First, we want to recognize the work of Hillary Roman, ADA coordinator, for the last 3 years.
The city's ADA office ensures that everyone has equal opportunity to participate in the programs and services offered by the city. The work carried out by the office has grown over the past 30-plus years since it was established when the ADA was passed. However, budget and staffing of the office have not kept pace. The ADA office is stretched thin to accomplish its work.
The city needs to prioritize the work of the ADA office by adequately funding and staffing the office. In addition, the city needs to elevate the ADA office to one of more authority, visibility, and centralized access. The location of the ADA office within city government should enable close communication with the mayor's office. In some cities, the ADA office is actually part of the mayor's office. Chicago and Philadelphia do this. We should look at their model.
We also strongly believe that the ADA office has a function beyond simply compliance with the ADA. The office should serve as a disability resource center, both within city government and for the Pittsburgh community. And now we're going to hand off to Elisa Grishman.
Thank you very much, Tina and Mark. Thank you, Mayor Gainey, for hosting this town hall. I hope the plans are going well for the ramp in front of the city-county building. My name is Elisa Grishman, and I use she, her pronouns. For people who can't see me, I am a fat white woman with curly brown hair and lots of tattoos. I am wearing a t-shirt that says, "If you embrace diversity but ignore disability, you're doing it wrong." There was a dark time in our country's past when it was acceptable to put up signs on sidewalks that said whites only, and it was expected that all non-white people would cross the street. Through the valiant efforts of civil rights leaders, it is now illegal to put up such a sign, and to do so would not only be a violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, it would also be seen as heinous and repulsive by any right-minded human. Sidewalk obstructions such as outdoor dining, sandwich boards, vehicles parked on sidewalks, e-scooters, delivery robots, a lack of snow removal, broken and degraded pavement, a lack of tree maintenance, and in many places a lack of curb cuts altogether are in essence signs that say physically abled only. But there's no public outcry over the rights of disabled people being violated. Often it seems like the majority of people aren't even aware that this is a civil rights violation in the first place. Pittsburgh is my home. It is my beautiful, vibrant, wonderful home. But over the last 21 years, as multiple sclerosis has impaired my body more and more, it has become harder and harder to feel that this city loves me as much as I love it. The ADA must be a priority for this city and for this administration. Pedestrian access and sidewalk safety have been ongoing problems, limiting the access of disabled people to businesses, health care, and housing. Despite the efforts of countless advocates, the city's building code is not in alignment with the ADA, and there's a lack of education given to business owners regarding their rights and responsibilities under the ADA. I have provided the mayor with a set of photographs that I've taken over the last 18 months featuring chronic problems around the city, including broken and unpassable sidewalks, vehicles parked on sidewalks and in front of bus stops, and e-scooters. So many e-scooters. If anyone would like to access these photos, please talk to me after the town hall, and I'll put them in the comments if this winds up online. They're barely the tip of the iceberg when it comes to issues of inaccessibility, but they're what I deal with on a daily basis. So again, thank you for your time, Mayor Gainey, and thank you for your commitment to equity in the city. I'd like to hand this off to Tammy Morton, who is filling in for Lou Randall.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tammy Morton. I'm Director of Operations for Autism Connection in Pennsylvania. Speaking, I'm channeling Lou Randall right now. She writes autism, intellectual disability, mental health, substance abuse disorders, and other types of disability can manifest in behaviors that can easily be misunderstood. The most dangerous outcome of this is police interaction, especially for Black and Brown people and those in the LGBTQIA+ communities. The City of Pittsburgh has responsibility regarding police training and for collaboration with the Pittsburgh Public Schools. Recently, a man with intellectual disability and autism died in the county jail. This is the county jail on September 21st, 2022. And we as a city need to stand up in response and prevent and balance out the careless conditions that led to his suffering and death. Incarceration should not be a death sentence. Also, recently, an autistic woman had 2 different encounters with police. The first encounter escalated in an exchange that led to an unfortunate outcome. The following week, there was another encounter with a different officer who recognized that she was having a meltdown because she had missed her bus. He de-escalated the situation, helped her regulate herself, and drove her home. This exemplifies how focused disability resources can make the second encounter more likely than the first. We propose increased budget and staffing for the ADA Coordinator's Office so it can serve as a disability resource center, a central hub for accessibility information, as well as disaster and emergency training and preparation. And I hand it out to Aurelia.
Thank you. First and foremost, I want to say I've been a disability advocate for over 30 years, and I'm one of the few that are African American. So I want people to understand I didn't just come here, I've been here. And what I'd like to do right now, really quickly, is just to have my two loved ones stand up because they're the reasons why I'm here. My son Brandon, stand up. Theo, and my brother. So when I say nothing about us without us, I'm real serious about that. So my issue is really around accessible and affordable housing. People with disabilities have the right to accessible and affordable housing like the rest of the residents who live in the city. As you see, I have 2 adult family members with disabilities who want the same thing as everyone else in the city, to be able to live on their own. I've had the experience of trying to help them navigate a broken system when problems arise, whether it's with the Section 8 housing voucher itself or just seeking out someone to be able to help them. I actually had to become their help on top of a full-time job. Thank goodness, I will say, I was able to connect with the ADA compliance officer, Ali Abdullah, who has been my saving grace to try to figure out who's who in the housing authority that could be able to help my loved ones when they are having problems and issues, and as well as I've given his name to some other folks. But it's a shame that there aren't enough people that are able to help navigate the system. Enough people trained to be able to understand the needs of people with disabilities. And we're not just talking about one specific, because there are many. And enough simplified information available to help them to be able to understand who to call when there are issues that may arise, that they may experience, and even for caregivers such as myself. If they can't help themselves, there should be information that I would be able to get a hold of that would be able to help them. And especially when it comes to things like the experience with completing the recertifications, when it comes to Section 8 housing vouchers. And even in a situation, if they even have a situation where they would be evicted or being threatened to be evicted from any kind of public housing, we got to do better. We definitely got to do better. And of course, there's not a lot of time, and I was nervous earlier, so I ain't nervous now. But right now I can't really get into what can be done, because we don't have enough time for that. Because Mayor Ed knows too, I can go. But what I can say before. I was nervous. I was stumbling all over my words and everything like that. I was like, oh, what's going on? So, but I ain't nervous now. But before I hand it back over to Felicity and Sam, what I will say is that we have to do better. And we also have to include that safe piece. Every resident in the city should not live in fear. And they're a vulnerable population. And they also should not have to live in fear. So with that, before I go on my soapbox, I'm going to hand it back off to Felicity and Sam.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you all for all of the comments and reflections and information that you gave us. You see that the mayor is taking notes. We have other team members taking notes as well to make sure that we are taking this information back, as well as the stuff that we're about to hear now, the public comment from you all and from our folks on Zoom. So I'm going to ask Crisera. Oh, yes, Brother Mel. Where is Brother Mel? Here, there you go. You slipped right in. I want to make sure I acknowledge Brother Mel here, who's Senior Community Advisor to the Mayor, who's joined us now. I'm also going to invite Chrisara Johnson into the room so that we can get started on our public comment period. Chrisara, I will need to read the names because for the folks on Zoom to hear, it has to be through a microphone. So if you want to come on, or you can read it and come on over here, or you can use the microphone up there, but just make sure that you're at a microphone so that people can hear you.
Had to make sure it worked. I never sat here before. So I'm going to start with calling 3 people at a time. And I also wanted to reiterate and ask everyone, can we make sure that we limit our comment to 1 minute, just so we can make sure that everyone has an opportunity to speak. We have a lot of questions via Zoom, and just want to give everybody the opportunity to have their questions answered as well. So I'll start with Marissa Vogel and Colton Vasquez and Tammy Morton.
Hello, good evening. My name is Marissa Vogel. I'm a business owner who serves people of all abilities in Lawrenceville. The city could make it better for the people that I serve by improving accessibility to transportation, sidewalk mobility, and barriers created by construction. There should be more accountability and enforcement. I also want to encourage the city to support inclusive community opportunities and efforts. The city should have a culture of equitable practices, often described as centering a culture of belonging, practicing radical welcoming or radical hospitality, acknowledging universal design, and just generally humanizing one another as neighbors. This is my friend Colton and colleague.
Is this?
Hi.
Do you want me to hold them? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. My name is Colton Vasquez. I'm 23 years old. I'm from Pittsburgh. I am singer.
Senior? Where at?
At Duquesne.
And what are you studying?
I study theater and acting. And I work at the cafe. Protein.
And started paying taxes at 14.
At summer, I have 4 jobs.
What? To work and make money. Come on. Performance.
What?
I love to work and make money.
I love
to work. Do you love to work?
I love to work, make money.
Make my own money. Say that loud so he knows.
I vote.
I vote in every election. This is your last name.
Okay. I my own house and my own wedding, and in my own house, and with my own dog, and help me.
I need your help, right? Do you want me to help with the rest? Yeah. Okay. I am working hard so that I can buy my own home and have a good life. I need your help to make sure I will be able to do that. I want to live in the city so that I have access to all the things that help me live an independent life. I need affordable housing. I can pay my share, but purchasing a home in our city has become out of my reach. I've been saving money for almost a decade from working competitively. At one time, I was sure I would have the money I needed when I graduated college. That is no longer the case. Living in the city is so important to me. Having access to public transportation is important to me. I need your help in truly making Pittsburgh the most livable city for all of its citizens. I need your administration to ensure that the needs of all citizens are considered when bringing new initiatives to our city. We need a seat at the table and a real voice. We want you to set an example for all employers by making a concerted effort to hire a diverse workforce that includes people with disabilities in all areas of city government. We recognize your cabinet and what you've done internally, but it needs to be widespread throughout the entire city government. We want real jobs for real pay. We want you to invite us to sit on committees and have real input on how our city moves forward. I'm an Alderdice graduate, a Pittsburgh Promise Scholar, and I want a career and a job because this year I graduate from Duquesne. Did I capture it? Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, nice job.
Thank you. Next, Tammy Morton.
Hi, everyone. I'm channeling Lou Randall again. She's got a lot to say. I do want to say the first speaker mentioned universal design. I invite everyone to please visit the family division of the court where they put in sensory rooms, trauma-informed areas, and invested quite a bit of time, money, and effort into ensuring that families who have differences and special needs are comfortable in the courthouse. Lou writes, we need to reimagine the city's ADA office and demand that it includes a permanent office on disability resources. This type of office not only provides accessibility information, but provides expertise to co-responders who are in the most dire emergency situations. Going above and beyond can save the city money in lawsuits on the prevention side. Police liability is a huge issue. Transportation access and personal injury lawsuits can also be very expensive. It takes dedicated expertise to go above and beyond the ADA, and we know that even the bare minimum isn't being met. Aim higher. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we're going to ask Maria Paul to speak, and after Maria Paul will be Paul Ohanan on Zoom.
Good evening, Mayor Gainey. My name is Dr. Maria Paul. I'm speaking on behalf of the students, families, and staff at Pioneer Education Center. We are a center-based school that is part of Pittsburgh Public Schools. We serve students with multiple disabilities, ages 5 to 21, in the city. Many of our students are in wheelchairs or have limited ability to walk. Many of our students are nonverbal, have minimal communication abilities, and complex medical needs. The families of our students are taxed with the daunting task of providing daily care for their children. They must navigate medical systems, county support systems, medical supply companies, and educational systems that work independently from each other instead of collaboratively. As a society, we have created systems and services that make this care even more challenging than it needs to be. I am here tonight, Mayor Gainey, to ask for your commitment in supporting Pittsburgh families providing care for those with complex needs. This care does not stop when the students graduate at age 21 from Pioneer. The census.gov website reports that as of July 21st, 2021, there are a little over 30,000 people in the city under the age of 65 living with some type of disability. That is a striking number of individuals whose voices aren't often heard and care needs struggle to be met. Our Pioneer staff collaborated to come up with some thoughts regarding how the city could better support students and families. Accessibility in public spaces. While working with our students out in the community and talking with families, we know sidewalks and curbs make it challenging to push wheelchairs. Students with balance issues struggle to walk independently too, when sidewalks have cracks and changes in elevation that should not be there. The need for affordable, accessible housing, we've already kind of talked about that. Pittsburgh is an old city with old structures and homes. As our children at Pioneer grow in height and weight, stairs inside and outside the home, narrow doorways, and small bathroom spaces are some examples of the physical space challenges experienced by families. Federal or state funding to provide home modifications can be really difficult for our families to navigate and access. It would be beneficial for families in the city to have a local, knowledgeable access point to assist them as they seek out help in this area of their lives. Families at our school who have looked for more accessible city housing more often than not cannot find it. And also the need for accessible transportation. Part of the instruction we attempt to provide at Pioneer involves getting our students out into the community through field trips. Public transportation is not an option when we have 8 students in wheelchairs and only 3 or 4 staff to support them. Wheelchair accessible vans are needed. Only 2 to 3 of our students can fit on a van, and so we need usually 3 or 4 vans for a trip. Each van can cost $400 to $500 per trip. We would love to see the city work together with organizations to create a fund that we could access to provide our students with opportunities. We hope that you will hear our Pioneer voices and work together with us to create a more inclusive and accessible city for all Pittsburgh residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next we have Paul Ohanan, and after that we have Abby Blank. Paul, you may unmute on Zoom.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. The Americans with Disabilities Act says that when a business renovates, an act of discrimination is committed when the alterations are not accessible to and usable by individuals with disabilities to the maximum extent feasible. The city's Department of Permits, Licensing, and Inspection routinely engages with businesses as they go through this process of renovation. But PLI acts as if the ADA doesn't apply to it and routinely licenses businesses who are discriminating against people with disabilities. The ADA says the barriers at the entrance are the highest priority to be removed. The PLI acts as if barriers at the entrance are not a priority. It's not an exaggeration to say that PLI can license a business to open today, and tomorrow that business can be sued for disability discrimination. I would assert that this policy makes no sense to the business, let alone to the community. I filed a complaint with the Pittsburgh Commission on Human Relations, challenging PLI's practice, asserting that the process of licensing acts of disability discrimination is in itself an act of discrimination. The commission investigator said something that I consider to be strange. It was suggested that this issue with PLI could be fixed by passing legislation. Now, the ADA is legislation, and the ADA says that this is illegal but PLI seems to think the ADA doesn't apply to it. But if passing an ordinance in City Council will get PLI to stop licensing acts of disability discrimination, then why not? Mayor Gainey, would you agree to work with us in drafting this legislation? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Abby Blank. You may, if you still have anything to say. All right. And then after that is Jeff Parker.
Good evening. My name is Abby Blank. I'm a 12th grade student at Pittsburgh Alderdice High School. I am also president of the Teen Leadership Board at the Friendship Circle of Pittsburgh, a local nonprofit dedicated to creating a more inclusive community. I'm here tonight with a few of my fellow Friendship Circle members and some staff that are sitting back there. Recently, my peers and I have noticed how inaccessible Alderdice is for students and staff with physical disabilities. Although we do have elevators, they don't reach all parts of the building, including our first floor annex where several of our math classrooms are housed. Students who use wheelchairs and other mobility devices must leave the main building and enter through a separate entrance to reach the annex. They have to travel across the parking lot to get there. Additionally, the main entrance to Alderdice is completely inaccessible for those who cannot walk up steps. The accessible entrance is housed in the back of the school next to the dumpster. My question for you, and if this isn't the proper time to ask a question, maybe we can save it for later. Are there plans for the mayor's office to work with Pittsburgh Public Schools to ensure accessible infrastructure across all buildings? And if so, will student voice be brought into those conversations? Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Jeff Parker, and after Jeff Parker will be Paulette Foster. Jeff, you may unmute on Zoom.
Hello, my name is Jeff Parker. I've lived in the city of Pittsburgh for 50 years, or more actually. I have a request for the mayor that's not going to cost money, it's not going to disrupt anything, it's not going to tear any businesses down. My request is that after tonight, Mayor, you go back to the office and you talk to your department heads and tell them that they are not to take something that's already accessible and make it less accessible or inaccessible. Unfortunately, that's what happens in Pittsburgh. That if we really want a change of the status quo, if we really want to breathe the fresh air into Pittsburgh, we really need to take a new perspective and not sacrifice things that are already accessible to go forward on other projects. I've watched HP parking spaces disappear. I've watched places where access paratransit can no longer let people off. I've watched passive navigation through intersections and on sidewalks just disappear. And my request is we just try to change that, and we try to change it starting tomorrow by asking our department heads to be more thoughtful and not take away something that's already accessible. Thank you.
Thank you. Paulette, before you go, I would just like to give a gentle reminder and ask everyone to please keep your comments to 1 to 2 minutes, as we have a lot of people that we would like to get to, and we want to make sure that we give everyone the opportunity to speak and ask their question. And Paulette, you may proceed.
You would say that on my turn.
I had a feeling.
Yeah, you knew that, huh? Well, anyway, that took away the anxiety. My conversation is in regards to police safety and procedure. Again, my name is Miss Paulette Foster. I have my name I go by as a guardian still on a mission. My passion is my purpose. I'm not going to use the name of the individual because he has a right to be not exposed, but my loved one had an episode. He left our home on June 18th. He's an individual with intellectual disability. On June 28th, he called and said, "I'm not missing." The reason why he said he's not missing is because I placed his information on Facebook. Within 24 hours, I had over 1,000, more than 1,000 people trying to find where he was. I received a call on June 30th, and it was from a police officer stating that we have come in contact with your loved one. I put out a missing person report stating that this individual has intellectual disability. No time did the police officer take the time to pay attention to that conversation. When I spoke to the police officer said to me that he was 22, he's grown. This 22-year-old left on the 28th of June, and he made his way back on October the 13th. All that time, he was living under bridges, homeless shelters, when it was told to me that if they would have did what they needed to do, they would have took him to Crisis Resolve. They would have had an opportunity for him to get services necessary. So for those 5 months, my loved one was in the street. Why? Because police procedures were not followed. I was told to make sure that information was shared. So my loved one made, in the process of me having concern in all the community that love him, we had to deal with the worry, is this man dead? Is he being molested? And he was stopped by the police officer because he was in an act of crime. The person was in the process of breaking into the car, and that's when they ran his information. So to not take the information that's being shared by an individual in regards to the person's intellectual disability, it's a real thing. Just because you see an individual does not mean there's nothing going on. I didn't know the young man was having an episode. This part of his life is all new to me. I've been with him since birth. So those who know me know how much I am compassionate about the process of individuals with disability are not being serviced. We are not second-class citizens. He walks perfectly. He doesn't look like he's gone through anything. Yet sharing this conversation with a friend, Aurelia Carter, she said, we don't know what's in that mind that he has struggled with. I can't bring him back into my home because I don't know what he's been exposed to. So right now, by God's grace, he is at Resolve Center, and they've gone beyond what they normally would do. But this is a situation that could have happened in July. He could have been restored. Now we have to go back because even with the county, there's still services that are lacking. So we are still in the process of trying to move forward to get him the necessary services for him to be able to function. He is a graduate from Pittsburgh Public Schools. He went through everything. Like I said, my purpose is my passion. But at the end of the day, we cannot service our people just because they look like they're okay, does not mean they're okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will have Joseph Smith on Zoom. And after Joseph Smith will be Tina Calabro. She will read Joan Steen's comments.
Hello. My name is Joseph Smith, and I am a person with disabilities. I'm an artist, photographer, and a benevolent person. I would like to ask the question for Mr. Gainey and staff in the city of Pittsburgh and the police. What is being done about the recent late night gun violence? It causes me extreme mentally sensory overload when I hear about what is happening in the news. The losses of life are unacceptable, and quite frankly, I am done, sick and tired, and I'm mad as Hades. What is being done about this?
Thank you for your question.
I'm going to speak for Joan Stein, who's an ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act specialist working in the city. She could not be here. Her comment is that the disability community has provided education to business owners numerous times over the years. And this is in regard to what Paul O'Hanlon is talking about with the disconnect between the city's building code and the ADA, how they do not align. Joan says, there is a general lack of interest, and truthfully, the only business owners who show up for trainings are not the ones who need the education. What is missing is that the city's Department of Permits, Licensing, and Inspections needs to align with the ADA. They need to enforce the accessibility provisions of the building code, utilize the priorities set forth in the ADA. Without that happening, as Paul O'Hanlon has said, business owners and design and construction professionals have absolutely no reason to change the way they are renovating businesses in neighborhoods, and there will still be inaccessible entrances to them. Joan says, we keep running in circles, doing the same thing and expecting different results.
Thank you. Next, we will have Joe Wasserman via Zoom, and after Joe will be Bernadette Mosey. Joe, you may unmute your, Joseph, you may unmute your Zoom. Is Joe on Zoom? All right. Bernadette Mosey. After Bernadette Mosey will be Sandy Maker via Zoom.
I can't stand up. I'm in too much pain.
I just wanted to move it down for you.
And I apologize. This time of the day, my eyes are, the lights have turned off. I'm having a hard time seeing my own words. To shorten this, just see what I spoke to you about today at City Council. First, despite federal ADA laws protecting our disabled, visible and non-visible, disabled citizens, we are not representative, as we are hearing. Evidence of infrastructure funding mismanaged grossly at the government levels. Funds allotted for fancy crosswalks telling us to cross, actually leading to severe danger. We are led to sidewalks leading to literally gutters, gravel pits, blocked by hydrants, light poles, detour signs, plain nothingness, sidewalks to nowhere. I would say further, a full-blown all levels of government investigation of funds for those approving crossing walks or when when businesses start. They shouldn't be approved. If you're an inspector and you approve a sidewalk to nowhere, a new crosswalk, fine them, make them pay until they get it fixed. Engineers, everybody down the line. Likened to Carson Street, by the way, beautiful work on the pedestrian cross lights. The city, they should have more of those. At the top of Bowstead, which I call Dead Man's Curve, I sat there and I've been recording. I could be in the middle of Broadway Avenue. If, depending on what side you're coming from, it's a blind spot. And people ignore, you can get out of debt ticketing those people who will not stop at the zebra lines all over the city. But before somebody seriously gets hurt, we definitely need just very simple push button crossing lights. Your handicap bathroom down the hall is not handicap accessible. The newer equipment, I can't use these chairs. When my myopathy and neuropathy are active, I look like a toddler in a snowsuit trying to, I can't even wear all my braces. I'd be going down the road like this. I cannot use these chairs with the mouse. At the wheelchair clinic at UPMC, I was hitting doctors' walls, doors, you name it. So for your bathroom down here, it opens towards me. I have to get out and walk in there. Some days I'm very unstable. That's why I'm in a chair. Again, Beach View, Senior Center, the push buttons don't work on the doors. And again, I have to reach over, pull out, get my legs in positions that haven't been in that position since I birthed children to get the door open to stay open. Ask yourselves before you plan, before you approve, is this going to help or hinder our disabled folks? Simple question. Would you put your grandmother in a wheelchair and say, yeah, she's safe, she could do that? Very quickly, please watch today's general conference or general city council meeting. Hill District needs help. It's all pretty at Freedom Corner and all the pretty new buildings. There's nothing. We need a mobile unit to come to these folks to help them register for access. What our directors are doing at the senior centers, they could be doing that out of a mobile unit. Hey, you ever see a school bus turned into a home for a family of 5 that travel the country? We could do that. We could get these directors to have a mobile unit get to them. Those seniors up there in the Hill District, they have lived through, I'm sorry, I'm getting teary-eyed. They have witnessed the worst gentrification from the Civic Arena to when they just took all those homes. Some of them are still alive up there. They should not be shoved in the back with no proper bus transportation to and from anywhere. They need help, and we need to step in. And we need to get like when they're talking about the wheelchair vans, take them to the Southside Senior Center. Take them to Mount Washington. They get them the calendars. They can go shopping. There's no shopping up there for them. They can go on a senior OPT trip to Walmart. Please. I'm sorry. I know I went over a minute. I'm sorry, but 1 minute is not enough for this.
We don't want you to limit your passion at all, and we appreciate you.
And I got it. Oh, hold on.
Next, we have Sandy Maker, and after Sandy Maker is Carlo Lebecki. Sandy, you may unmute your Zoom. One moment, Sandy. All right, here you go.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Good evening, everybody. I have been a volunteer for Special Olympics for 26 years, and I have a 31-year-old Down syndrome son. For a long time, I have been very concerned about individuals in wheelchairs maneuvering the sidewalks in the city. 2 weeks ago, I came around the West End Circle. I witnessed 2 individuals coming around the West End Circle in wheelchairs heading up Steuben Street. Not only did they have to get around the fire hydrants, they had to get past the overgrown weeds on the sidewalk, which I'm sure was a great challenge for them. I could not help to wonder if they were going to head all the way up to Steuben Street to where Chartiers Avenue meets. Going up Steuben, a little bit past Wabash, not only are there weeds, but there is always 5 or 6 cars who put all 4 of their wheels on the sidewalk and park. On the other side of the street, where it curves, they also park with two wheels on the sidewalk, but it wouldn't be accessible for a wheelchair person to get up there. The city can put in as many wheelchair ramps on the sidewalks as they want, but if the sidewalks are impassable, the ramps are no good. I did want to also just add that the Pittsburgh police have been very much involved with Special Olympics, going out to their events. They also have gone out for many years and played basketball with them. Now COVID hit and they weren't coming out and we weren't even having practice. But I highly encourage our officers to continue that practice because it gives them the opportunity to work with these individuals in that type of environment and get to know people, get to know how they are, and that could really be a benefit to our police officers. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Carol Lebecki.
Hello. Hi, my name is Carol Lebecki. I moved to Pittsburgh about 2 years ago during the pandemic. And my son is living in Lincoln, so he has a house there. So I kind of, since it was a difficult time, I moved in with him, and I just reopened my office here. So I'm legally blind. Where I lived in Philadelphia, I was completely independent. I could get transportation, the sidewalks were great. I have to say, where I'm living now, the sidewalks are impassable. There's actually a really nice sidewalk underneath where I could get to the bus stop, but it's just covered by overgrowth, and it's just impossible to navigate all through Lincoln. The bus stop is only a block away from my house, or next house, but it's just impassable. And I guess my request would just be that we've called the city, by the way, for like 2+ years since I've been here, and absolutely nothing has been done. I also contacted the accessibility person, Hillary, and I've heard nothing. As well, my request is just that, like, I understand that Lincoln is a vulnerable area, but I think that resources should be, also given to Lincoln to be able to create like accessible areas. And there's a lot of older people in our neighborhood that could benefit as well from just having accessible. There is no safe crossing. Like, I can take the bus, if I can get to the bus stop, I can take it out to work now. But when I come home, like, there's no safe crossing, and that's what the request has been. It's just nothing has been happening. So that's it. Thanks. Lincoln Ave, yeah, and we're on Arbor, so it's just, everyone walks in the street there because you can't get to the sidewalks at all, so. We're on Arbor? Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Gabriel McMorland via Zoom, and after Gabriel is Anne Louise Finney via Zoom as well. Gabriel McMorland. 1 second, Gabe. All right, we're all good to go.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Gabriel McMorland. Sorry, when the Zoom chat is going, I only hear my talking phone, so then I have to stop. I need the talking phone because I'm blind. So someone's in the chat, I can't talk. Otherwise, I'm going to send details in a follow-up email. Mayor Gainey, I'm really glad you're the mayor. You got a great team, and I'm hopeful about what's going to happen. I know you inherited a lot of things I disagree with from the pseudo administration. These all have to do with sidewalk accessibility and access to mobility. Before that, though, I really want to double down on and emphasize what a couple speakers already said about policing. And I'm pretty sure that Mayor Gainey already knows this, but also like a good reminder for all of us in the room. A lot of us are taught that the police, a lot of the white people are taught that the police automatically means safety. And that's statistically not true, and a lot of people just know it because it's not their lived experience. So institutionally, it's not, I'm glad that people have experiences with specific police officers who have specific moments of being nice to people. But we're going to need institutional changes, and that's the problem across the country. Several things about sidewalk accessibility. The first is about the e-scooters. So I'm a former member of the City County Disability Task Force, and I know that your administration So I'm a former. I'm gonna start over. Sorry. I'm a former member of the City County Disability Task Force, and I know your administration heard concerns from them about e-scooters operated by the for-profit company Spin. I'm also a member of the Pittsburgh for Public Transit, and both I personally and PPT as an organization has been publicly calling for ending the contract with Spin and not renewing with them after the pilot, not renewing the permitting, and not, as Spin, the company has requested, advocating for expanding their access to third-class in our state. I know you inherited that from the City administration. There's a lot of literal barriers that cause people to go in the street or not be able to navigate around the sidewalk. And then, so I think there's a clear solution to that. I'm going to follow up. Another concern I have around sidewalks is with the delivery robots. They were a problem in Oakland, and then the City administration decided to roll out, after hearing complaints from blind people and people using wheelchairs about the accessibility in Oakland. They decided to roll out a pilot test of a second company, again for profit, in Bloomfield. And I haven't followed what happens since then, but I'm really hoping your administration will not expand those kind of experiments in public space. And then third, lastly, I know a lot of our funding options are limited and there are trade-offs in the budget, but I'm hoping that if someone hasn't already done this, I'd really like someone to look into if we can get an equitable system for funding repairs to sidewalks in front of private homes. Perhaps there's a way to assess penalty fees against commercial landlords or homes that are in sidewalks in disrepair, but they're not someone's primary residence, and then use that money for a grant program for low-income people who own homes that have sidewalks in disrepair. But a lot of us literally are locked in our homes because of it. And I know the city doesn't have the money in the budget to replace all the sidewalks right away, so we need a great solution to get it done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Ann Louise Finney. And after that, we have Trudy Maxon. I do believe the rest of our speakers that have pre-registered are all via Zoom.
You want me to start?
Yes.
I wanted to thank Mayor Gainey and also honor Linda Dickerson, who passed away, who has done so much for those with disabilities. My biggest concern is the definition of accessibility and what that means to businesses. I was told by the manager of the Dollar Bank that when it moved to Liberty Avenue in East Liberty, that they did not need a door with a button because it didn't weigh enough to warrant that. And the guard at the desk would not come over to the door to open it for me. And my other issue is transportation, as other people have so eloquently described. I was caller number 24 this morning at 8 a.m. for access, and I could not get the times that I needed, which is not unusual. It's tough enough getting them for medical appointments, but socialization is equally important because isolation leads to depression. And people need to have the people they care about in their lives and have access to spending time with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Trudy Maxon via Zoom, and up next we have Tess Daly. All right, Tess, it's all you.
Hi, my name is Tess Daly, and I live in North Point Breeze. I wanted to talk to you about the parks and and recreation. And I moved here from Alaska about 3 years ago. And when I lived in Alaska for about 30 years, and then I became disabled. And one of the reasons I lived there was because I enjoy the outdoors. when I moved here, you have all these beautiful parks, and I wanted to experience them. There's no, well, I went to Shenley Oval, and there's no handicap parking there. I don't know if you've ever been there, but there isn't. You have a handicap drop-off, and often it's blocked with people parking there who are not handicapped. They don't have, I can't tell you that because I don't know who's parked there, but there's no handicap license plate there on their vehicle. And actually, I've been there when there's been tour buses parked there. And but I would love to access the park there because I'm actually a pickleball player, and I would like to access the Park and Rec's programs, but the Parks and Rec programs are not accessible. There are many city events that I would like to access, but those programs are sometimes maybe partially accessible, but not safe, because when you block off a city block, you might have one entrance that is accessible, but once I'm in there, I'm not safe from the big drunk guy that likes to help the handicapped lady out. And so I need to be able to get in and out in several different places. I also got very overheated coming from Alaska in this summer, and I wanted to go cool off at the Highland Park pool. There's no handicap parking places there. So in fact, we went all over the place looking for a handicap parking place at Highland Park. There's no handicap places there to park. So we finally found a place to park, and I get on into the pool place, and there's a beautiful way to get into the pool, one of those chairs that launches you in. So I finally get there, and I'm about ready to get in that pool. And they blow the whistle, and they have to close down the pool. So I didn't even get my toes dipped in the water this summer. So I don't know what's going on, but for 3 years I've been trying to contact somebody about being able to access the parks here. I'm a professional, physically integrated dancer. I would love to dance with people. One of the things that I do is I've tried to find outdoor space to dance. I would love to experience the reservoir, maybe check it out to do some site-specific dancing. But I can't get there. The parking has been blocked off. And I did go there once, and there was some handicap designated parking space, but it was at the top of a hill, which meant I would have to park there, go down, go someplace, and then have to find a way to get back up. So logistically, I don't know who's figuring this stuff out. I told myself I wasn't going to get upset, but it's very hard to not get upset about these things. This law, ADA, the ADA law was passed 32 years ago, and we all have been given 1 minute to talk about this. So I am so happy about all the things that I have found here in Pittsburgh, excuse me, and I am very grateful for this 1 minute. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Christy Troutman and Reverend Sally Jo Snyder. And lastly, I'll just say your name. We have Nathan Ruggles. Those are our last three that are pre-registered to speak.
Thank you. My name is Christy Troutman, and I'm Executive Director of FISA Foundation. I'd like to speak to reimagining and strengthening the ADA office. Other cities have established an office for people with disabilities in the mayor's office. As Mark Steidel said previously, Philadelphia, Chicago, New York, San Francisco, Houston, and other cities are far ahead of us in establishing both a public commitment to access and inclusion and a mechanism for ensuring that people with disabilities can access all city programs, departments, and services and feel welcome and included. There should be a dedicated person in the mayor's office to focus specifically on access and inclusion of people with disabilities within your equity agenda. A disability equity agenda should include hiring practices, city communications, city planning, public works, youth engagement, educational policy, public safety, disaster preparedness, transportation, and act as a community resource hub. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Reverend Sally Jo Snyder.
Okay, thank you very much, and I'm going to go super quick. I'm a proud Yinzer by birth and wise enough to determine to stay one my whole life long. 2 points I want to make super quick are every single issue mentioned, accessibility, the ADA office, public safety, each and every one of those impact one's individual and our community health and wellness. Let's always keep that in mind. And the last piece I ask is that Mayor Gainey, thank you for doing this and taking this initiative, and for everyone there in positions of power to set the intention and make it a lived promise that no matter what new project or what new policy, before it has even begun to be planned, you have a commitment to ask, to listen to, and to involve members of the disability community with their opinions, their perspectives, and their insights. It's no longer an afterthought. It is involved from the very beginning with every policy and every project. Thank you for doing this. Stuff like this makes me even prouder to be a Yinzer. So all the best.
Thank you. Now we have Nathan Ruggles.
Hello. Take a moment, imagine, if you will, you need to get to a meeting in a downtown office just a few blocks from yours. Well, what if there was no just about it? Imagine that it involves carefully planning your route. Fortunately, you're familiar with the path. There, you've taken it before, you know which sidewalks are traversable, which are not, which intersections have curb cuts, where the blind driveways are. As you roll out onto the sidewalk in your powered wheelchair, your coworker who's accompanying you walks beside. You engage in pleasant conversation on the way. However, halfway there you have a problem. Your way is blocked by a large cargo truck. You will have to go around. As you do so, you realize that there is not enough space on the other side to re-enter the sidewalk. You are forced to continue along the oncoming traffic lane until you reach the next available curb cut, unfortunately, over half a downtown city block away. Fortunately, the street is relatively low traffic, at least in the moment. You get to the end without incident. You look up at your companion. That companion is me. That moment now over 20 years ago in Columbus, Ohio, was when I realized, when I just got a taste of what our friends who get around on wheelchairs or powered mobility scooters have to deal with each and every day. It had a rather profound effect on me. Since I started to notice things, my coworker continued to open up my eyes. This perspective continued these 20 years combined with a retrospective on places I lived. In my life, I've lived for extended periods in over a dozen cities, small, large, and a number of states, including twice abroad. I visited dozens of others, and I tend to notice sidewalks. 7 years later, I began volunteering at the Cincinnati Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired for the radio reading services. Several years after that, I started working as an audio describer for the blind and visually impaired. Today, I professionally write and voice description for live theatrical performance, as well as exhibits, film, video, presentations, more. So I come to you also as someone who not only comes into regular contact with residents in Pittsburgh who are blind or visually impaired, but it is my job to focus on them, their concerns, and their needs, and make damn sure I'm meeting them. If you thought that first story represented a challenge, now imagine this, doing the same with little or no sight to help guide you. You may use a wheelchair or a white cane. If you are sighted, consider all the objects you may routinely walk around on a sidewalk. Traffic signal posts, telephone poles, newspaper stands, mail drop boxes, parking meters, parking kiosks, bike racks, bikes, small scooters, large scooters, food vendors, outdoor restaurant tables, chairs, tents, and fencing, cones blocking off repair hazards, manhole covers, grates, steps, railings, protruding ramps, sidewalk trees, and the grates around them, if they exist. Strips of grass, bushes, planters, rapidly changing sidewalk widths, some becoming so narrow it makes it practically impossible to pass, especially with a pole in the way. Gravel, crumbling pavement, uneven pavement, broken curbs, broken bricks, chunks and bits of broken pavement, bricks and curbs. completely missing pavement. And of course, in Pittsburgh, vehicles. So many vehicles. Also consider that while some of these things are permanent fixtures, any number of these things change at a moment's notice. Objects are scattered, not organized along the curb, unruly, unregulated, with little consideration for our friends who may be disabled. I also come to you today as co-president of the registered community organization, Mount Oliver City St. Clair Community Group. I have a responsibility towards all the people in my neighborhood, representing their concerns and addressing things like sidewalks. Routinely, residents in their powered wheelchairs are forced to do exactly what my colleague did years ago, going out onto the street. Except it is more often, with more traffic, worse pavement, it is more treacherous. And not just for those with physical disabilities, also residents who are elderly or others who may have some other mobility challenge. Also the youngest among us who might simply be trying to get to a park or a school. It gives me no pleasure to say that in my adopted city, of all the places I have lived, Pittsburgh stands out as the worst when it comes to sidewalks. Between the lack of maintenance and lack of parking and vehicle enforcement, it is frankly a nightmare, as so many have attested to today, and a disgrace. Yet it does not have to be this way. There are many cities where sidewalks are proudly well-maintained, well-used, and well-regulated. Sidewalks can be the lifeblood of a healthy, mobile city, or they can be an obstruction, literally and figuratively to that. The solution is, on one hand, simple: a city takeover of our sidewalks. To put it in perspective, would we ever imagine that property owners would be responsible for maintaining the streets for cars alongside their property? No. It sounds ludicrous. That's because it is. It is no less ludicrous, the double standard for sidewalks. A city takeover is ideal, based on fairness, justice, practicality, and efficiency. Certainly, cost is an issue. But what about the greater cost to all of us living with the status quo? Perhaps a difficult challenge, but no less a challenge than faced by so many residents each and every day. Fortunately, we hired you and pay you to meet such challenges, and we need you, as so many have attested to today, to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we wanted to revisit Joe Wasserman, who was one of our registered speakers on Zoom, to give him a chance to speak. And then we're going to take 2 questions from folks, if you have them, that did not register to speak before Lisa Frank, Chief Operating Administrative Officer, makes some response, particularly one I think you all are going to be really interested to hear about related to sidewalks and police chief search and some of those things. I'm going to make a couple comments and then we'll close out with the mayor here as well. So Joe, can you unmute yourself?
Chime in, we'll just stop, and we'll let you stop. While we're doing that,
2 folks who did not register to speak, who want to speak.
Joe, I'm sorry I didn't have a mic on. Whenever you come on to speak, we'll just stop and let you speak. And thanks, Dave. And we'll take 2 from the audience now.
Yes.
I'm going to be real quick. My name is Viv Schaefer. I want to underscore some comments that have been made about the Office of Permits, Licensing, and Inspections. Several years ago, I had occasion to inquire about a permit that had been issued, and I was told that it's not the city's responsibility to enforce federal law. So, Ed, you can fix that. I'm confident. And the other thing I wanted to say is that Pittsburgh's cultural institutions have national recognition as leaders in accessibility and inclusion and diversity, including people with disabilities, and equity. And they are a valuable resource, and you can reach out to them, and I'd be happy to make some introductions for you. The last thing I want to say is that I live in North Point Breeze, where until earlier this year, we had the fabulous representative to the state legislature, Ed Gainey. Ed, you know I'm a fan. We know your commitment to diversity. We know your commitment to people with disabilities, with mental health challenges. We know your commitment to listening and learning from people. I have great confidence that there are great things to come for the city. Thank you.
And then we're going to take one from Zoom. So Tiara Collins, if you could unmute yourself. Anybody that did not get to do public comment tonight, again, I want to reiterate, neighbor@pittsburghpa.gov for any other comments that you have.
Good evening, Mayor Ed Gainey and staff. My name is Tiara Collins. I am a mother of 5, but I have a 10-year-old with Down syndrome, a 19-year-old with bipolar, and a 28-year-old who has polycystic kidney disease. I myself am legally blind in my left eye, and I am deaf in my right ear. And what I would like to see happen is I would like to see where before they had cards that said your name and what was wrong with you, what your disability was. Those need to be reinforced so everyone who has a disability can carry that, because just the safety of what's going on with them, the interaction with the police, the interaction with Port Authority, the interaction with people in general. Though none of us look like we have a disability. Me, my son, my daughter, or my other son. We all look like normal people, but we all have disabilities, just like everybody else whenever there's something to say. When you come into encounter with the cops, when you come encounter with Port Authority police, when you come encounter with Port Authority in general, getting on the bus, you have to deal with the ignorance of them not wanting to lower the bus. You have to deal with the ignorance of them talking to people in a certain way, just like when they talked about the young man who had a breakdown and their mom couldn't find him. That shouldn't be the case. I don't care how old they are, 28, 19, 56. If they have a disability, there's someone that's still there for them. So we need to fix the system and figure out how to make it a better place for all. Mayor, again, I have faith in you. I've known you a long time. You've always been there for my children, my family, so I know that you and your staff will do what y'all need to do. But those cards need to be reinforced and put back in place so people have something to carry. So when they're coming upon these things, they're not being forced to come into the ignorance and the arrogance that people who just don't care. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, if you did not get to make comment, or you leave here tonight and decide that there are some additional after reflections, comments you want to make or questions, please email neighbor@pittsburghpa.gov. I wanted to turn this over to Chief Frank, of our Operating Administrative Officer, to talk a little bit about a couple topics. I think some things that you all will be happy to hear about that we are either in the process of doing right now or working on. Lisa, I'm going to hand this over to you.
How to work our mics. There we go. Thank you. So I've taken a lot of notes, and I know we're over time. So let me just try to put some things into areas. I'm actually going to start with the police, if that's okay, because I pulled it up on my phone. So I think people have heard that we're hiring a new chief, and that gives us an opportunity, I think, to lead the bureau. So what we're choosing is a leader for the bureau. I'm very excited about it. The mayor and Chief Wheatley and I spent a lot of time visiting police officers in our zones, and I think there are, as there are in any organization, maybe police officers who are whatever they are, but there are so many people that we met who are eager for progressive leadership and to learn the skills that you all are talking about. And I want to be sure that you have input into that process. So a couple of things for you to know. We have scheduled 5 meetings, community meetings, for folks to have input around what you want the new chief to be. We already had one of them. Sorry, we had one on Monday. And I know people are not going to be able to take great notes, but you can find it really easily on our website. We've got one tomorrow night at the Pittsburgh Paints Arena, one on Tuesday, November 1st, Perry Traditional Academy, one on Thursday, the 3rd, at the CEA in home of the Community Empowerment Association, and then there's a virtual one, a Zoom one on Saturday, November 5th at 11:30 a.m. And there's registration links there. So, please come to one of those meetings if you can. You get a chance to talk to your other neighbors. I think the one we did last night was kind of fun. In addition to that, there's a survey that you can take as an individual without having to come to a meeting at all. It's, Sam, I don't know, can we put the link up somewhere or show people how to have that? But you can click on that. It's accessible, and it gives you a way to just have direct input into that choice. And I think all of the things that people have said here are really important for our firm. We have a firm that's going to help us identify candidates. It's really important for our search firm to hear that, and it's really important for our search committee who are going to weed through those resumes to hear that. And of course, the mayor, who ultimately makes the decision about the new chief, has been here tonight and heard many of those things. So that's the first thing that I wanted to share with folks. So many people have talked about mobility, and a lot of it's focused on sidewalks. Some of it hasn't focused on sidewalks. To the woman, I've missed your name. I apologize. Yeah, who was? Tess Dowling. Thank you. I've learned something there. We have. You probably know in Pittsburgh, the folks who do the parks and the folks who sort of build stuff like pools and so on, and sidewalks, and the folks who manage the right-of-way, the roads, they're not all in the same department. And you've called to my attention a really important disconnection between the folks who are managing the right-of-way and the folks who are managing our facility. I appreciate that. I want to really think about that. I really want to bear down on that. We should not build a pool that people can't park near. That's just goofy.
But can I say, I think just from an organizational perspective, you don't want city departments working at counter purposes. You don't want the mayor's office to enact a policy that PLI is not enforcing, or that doesn't trickle down to Public Works and the guy who puts up the sign. It all sort of has to work together. It doesn't work at all.
Could not agree more. I will tell you that, I'm sorry, yes.
You have parking, you don't have designated handicap.
I understand, yes, sorry.
It's a legal issue.
Yeah, well, it's a legal issue, it's a human rights issue, it's a big issue.
Years ago, you were supposed to put handicap parking.
Got it. So the one good, the piece of good news, I guess I'll say, is that, and one of the things that I really enjoy about working in the city is that the mayor has been really very, very intentional about making those silos disappear. So, we all see each other now every single Monday morning so that we can start, people who've been doing their work in their own kind of world for a while are not, they don't want to do that, and I think are enjoying learning that, oh my goodness, we shouldn't do that way for legal issues, for human issues, and to create the city that the mayor has really charged us to create, which is a city for everybody. Sidewalks, okay, so Nathan Ruggles noted something that's important about our sidewalks, which is they're not, the city is responsible for some sidewalks, and homeowners and businesses are responsible for other sidewalks. And because, on any given block, it can be a little of this and a little of that and a little of the next thing, it makes it really kind of challenging to just do what you should do, which is, make a straight sidewalk that works really well for everybody. And so we're trying to pilot, and in fact, we have begun to pilot a way to get around that problem so that you could just kind of come on up to a sidewalk and say, hey, this sidewalk is, hinky and needs to be smoothed out and get over some of those ownership challenges. So if you're a homeowner, part of your problem with maintaining your little stretch of sidewalk is you don't know who to call, and maybe you can't afford it, right? If you're us trying to lay sidewalk, our problem is we don't have access to those bits of property. So what we like to do is, and we've picked a couple, is to go into neighborhoods and say, hey, you want to work with us to solve this problem? We will be the contractor, the city. You will give us access to your little bit of sidewalk, and we will make it, sliding scale affordable for you to just, pay it off in little increments, which helps us address some of the challenge that Nathan identified about, we can't just take it all over and afford all of it all by ourselves. So that pilot, we started in Homewood. I think I'm sorry? Arlington, it's in a place that's very inaccessible and very not great for school children and others who depend on sidewalks. It's so crazy up there that I think we have to wait till we can actually get the equipment up there when the kids are not up there at the same time. So it looks like we won't be able to do that one until the summer because you can't place sidewalk in freezing cold weather, but we are really working on that. We really want that to work. And then if we can iron out those difficulties and all of the bureaucracy that has to happen to make it work, which we are absolutely determined to do, then we can just roll it out in all kinds of places. Enforcement, I think, is really, really important, and it's challenging, and we're going to have to figure out how to be creative about it because we do not have a police force. We could never have a police force large enough to take care of every scooter, every dumpster that should not be where that dumpster is. That is really, really challenging. So we have our attorney, and it's also a big problem. I mean, it's challenging, and it's a challenge that we have to figure out how to address. We have our attorneys really thinking about, can we do things like ticket by mail, and can we have people take a picture of it and send it to the right person and then all of that is, believe it or not, like space the final frontier for law enforcement, but we are really bearing down on it to figure it out because we know we can't do it by having, it be the responsibility of our police. It's just, that won't work. So how do we build capacity by using technology and by using, the many, many eyes and ears that are out there all the time that can point to those problems. So that's what I got to share about sidewalks and multimodal in general.
Thank you, Lisa.
Oh, can I just say one other thing? Just about universal design. So I think I think all of our departments are aspiring to making sure that is understood and internalized by the staff. So, we have architects, we have planners, we have a whole variety of people in our planning department, in DPW, in DOMI, to make sure, that is actually the vision and the standard that people are working with. And that's not to say that things don't need to be ADA compliant. They do need to be ADA compliant. But we'd actually like people to just step right up into the idea of universal standards. And our directors are, I think, taking that on enthusiastically, gladly, with big hearts.
Thank you, Lisa. I wanted to speak to one of the themes that I heard here tonight around representation, participation in city government. And one of the ways that is through employment, but one of the other ways that is through seats at the table on our boards and commissions that make decisions about what happens in this city. And so one of the things that we rolled out earlier this year was a volunteer initiative where we can recruit people who are interested in serving on city boards and commissions. Now, it is open to anyone who is interested in submitting their information for consideration, but we did this in particular to focus on diversity and equity on our boards and commissions. So one of the areas that we are seeking individuals are folks with disabilities. And one of the reasons that we are doing that is not just so we can appoint people to the City County Task Force on Disabilities, but so that we can have disability representation on various boards across the city of Pittsburgh. So one of the things I heard about tonight was around PLI and license inspection and review. And one of the appointments that we did make, we made sure that there was a person with disabilities as part of our slate of appointments was on the license inspection and review board. So the board that reviews licenses and inspections around businesses and other work that PLI does. So that was important to us. I want to talk about that's an example that we have done. If anyone who is in this room or is in the virtual room with us on Zoom is interested in submitting your information and the different areas of city government that you're interested in as well, you can do that. We have a form, and I'm gonna have Sam or Rebecca drop that link in the chat for the folks on Zoom, but I'm also gonna say it out loud here. This is the short link. It's on our Engage PGH page. So any of you that are familiar with that can certainly log in to Engage PGH and search for it. But our short link is bit.ly/ and this is important, the capitals, capital P, capital G, capital H, capital V, OLUNTEER. Okay? And we have some folks. I would ask that you all also share this with your networks as well. Again, we are recruiting folks who are interested to be considered for appointments. And one of the other things I wanted to mention before I hand it over to the mayor to talk about some other topics and close us out here is also we are working on some collaborations with Special Olympics PA. So I know that we heard them mentioned here tonight, and so we look forward to, we can't share the details of it yet, but I know that they've met with our Parks and Recreation, so as you guys talked about access to our parks, that's important. We're already starting that work, and look forward to making some announcements soon about the work we're doing with Special Olympics PA. Thank you. Absolutely. And so we have, we did not enforce the 1 minute, speaking time limit tonight, with understanding that there are some challenges. We want to make sure that people could participate. So it was really much more of encouraging folks, but we certainly hear you to try to make sure that we could get through as many comments as we could tonight. We're actually almost an hour over, but we wanted to make sure we stayed to hear you all through all of this. So it is important to us, and certainly take that into consideration.
I just have one final comment, and I know that we're over, and I really do want to say that we really do appreciate all the time you've given us, because we were told we were only going to have an hour, right? So what I will end by saying is, I'll end by saying you guys continue to talk about technology, and you have to remember there's some people that can't afford internet. There are some people with disabilities, that will never have access to the Pittsburgh website or whatever to be able to get information. There also needs to be an alternative way. We talk about a city for all and all people. You got to figure out what are the alternatives to be able to meet. There are so many needs, and you're not going to meet them all, but at least half of them. And when I think about my two loved ones over there, they're low income. So, you know what I'm saying? And they have some other challenges that they'll never be able to really benefit from that information unless I figure out how I can get it to give it to them. So I just want to put that out there. Everybody isn't technology savvy. Everybody can't afford the internet. And please keep those things in mind as you think about Pittsburgh residents, all residents.
Absolutely. Anybody that also can call in too. So we talked about 311. If you call in, our neighborhood services team, they are small but mighty. They are a team of 3. So it's Rebecca Rinaldo, Chrisara Johnson, and Jess Farrell. They will work with you to make sure that things are accessible. So they are absolutely all about it. Thank you very much. So the city ADA... I would say we do not have an ADA coordinator at the moment, but we have put in a system in place during this temporary period. We wanted to get feedback from you all about that ADA coordinator role, particularly as we are going into the next year to inform our decisions going forward. As an interim solution, we have an email address, ada@pittsburghpa.gov. I'll say it one more time. And if Sam or Rebecca could drop it in the chat, that also would help. ada@pittsburghpa.gov. at pittsburghpa.gov. We have several city staff that have access to that account, including an individual directly in the mayor's office who are working to monitor that account and meet the needs in the interim period.
Do you have any parting comments, Mayor? Yeah, I'm going to go first. Well, no, I was just going to, first of all, thank you for the 2 hours because we had a conversation about that. And I do appreciate that, and do appreciate the fact that the disability community was here to hear on Zoom and that. And this is the start of a conversation that's going to be ongoing. And one last comment: vote as if your life depends upon it, because it does.
There we go. First, I just want to thank everybody who came out. Everybody on Zoom, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate it. And also thank you for your patience. I know 2 hours can be long sometimes, but we thought this was necessary. So before I say anything else, I just want to make sure I say thank you. Two is, as we talk about sidewalks, and you heard what Lisa said, we're working on a program, a strategy. We call it really more than a program. Programs run out of money, strategies don't. So we're really focused on how we can do a strategy to really improve sidewalks in the city of Pittsburgh. Now, I want to pretext that by saying that, these things don't happen overnight. There's no microwave meals in growth. It takes time. We're working on it right now, and we only 10 months in. So the things that we've been able to do in this 10 months, I want to lift my team up, because without them, we wouldn't be moving where we're moving right now. And I'm so appreciative of my team. We talked about Parks and Rec. That was a great question. I appreciate it. You got one of the greatest directors in this region, I would say in this state, for me, and Catherine Vargas. And I think if you just take a minute to talk with her, she's someone that she doesn't just talk about it, she walks the walk. And so I know those issues that you talked about are a major concern. I wrote them down, and we will be able to address them at some level. Maybe not all at the same time, but we will address them. You gave me a lot to think about with the ADA coordinator. I think as we begin to talk about how we refocus our priorities and what we have to do, and you gave me some good feedback in regards to what other cities have done. I think our team has to take it back and internalize, what is best. This is why I wanted to have this, to hear directly from you on what you thought. And you definitely gave me that tonight, and I appreciate it. Let us go back, though, and we call it chop it up. Chop it up means when we all get in the room, and you can imagine what that room looks like when we get in that room. But what I always say, we come out with 2 or 3 ideas that we can push, and we know that if the first one don't work, the second one don't work, the third one will. So we'll get in the room and we'll talk about what is the best way to use the ADA. Whether should it be a manager, should it be a director? I don't know, and I don't want to promise anything until I talk to my team about what that position looks like. Just give us a little bit of time to do that. And then the gentleman asked me about a question on violence, and I'm glad he did. So let me be a little bit, for real. I'm so fortunate today that our police was able to do what they do and apprehend the people that shot in that school, received the bullet. I'm so happy that they was able to catch them. The environment has changed. When I was young, there was fights, and you go home. Today, this isn't gang related, it's not drug related, it's me and you got an argument, I go get my gun and I shoot you. We in an argument, I get mad, I shoot you. There's no more hand combat, it's gunplay. And we're going to do all that we have to do to make this city safe. Every statistics say that every American should have 3 guns. That's how many guns is on our street. And I tell people all the time, for the people that tell me they tough on crime, that you can't be tough on crime and be soft on guns. There's just no way that you can do that. But what we always say that we need if we're going to be successful in combating this disease, and I believe that this gun violence is a disease, is that we need the community. And the reason why we've been able to make so many arrests in these last couple months is because the community has really come out and given us some good leads. We need the community. This search for the police chief is very critical to us. Across the board, we want someone that has our values and that are engaging and that wants to see a community where everybody feels welcome and everybody feels safe. We're going to work on that. We will work to reduce the violence, and trust me, we will. But it's not going to come overnight because it didn't begin yesterday. It began a while ago. The pandemic revealed a lot. But just the way that we continue to go out there every day and work hard to solve these crimes, it's only because we have a great community called Pittsburgh. And as long as we got a community that's working together, we will continue to solve these crimes. And while we're at it, we also have to turn to the state. I am not putting the accountability nor my responsibility on the state. It's for us to be able to ensure that we bring safety to our city, and we will. But at the same time, I have to be honest. We have to change the gun laws at the state level. I've been a state representative, and for y'all to know, I fought hard to change gun laws, very hard. So let me tell you something that y'all can do. You can call your state rep and state senator, particularly of the Republican Party, and you can explain one thing to them. That we can see the signs of violence, or we can still be naive and ignore it and put our head in the ground. Either or, we will reap what we sow. And I'm here to sow life and tell them it's not about taking guns off of nobody, but it is about implementing laws that we can make it a little bit more difficult for 14, 15, and 16-year-olds to be able to get guns. That is something as a community we can work on together. And when they see us working together, that's when they'll understand that we're creating a city for all. And again, let me be clear. I am not pointing the finger at the state as it's all their responsibility. It's all of our responsibility. And we will work hard every single day to reduce crime. But together we can get there faster. And when it comes to the disability community, this will not be the last meeting. We will meet again. We will continue to meet. But here's what I need from you. I'm not asking for patience because I understand. I hear it, I do. But I am asking for you to help to guide us. Because if you help to guide us, we'll remove your impatience and make it patient because you'll see results. So work with us. And as long as you work with us, one thing will remain true. We will go get it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Mayor. And again, we'd like to have a town hall meeting at least once a year. I don't know that Tina and I could handle once a month, but that would be fine. But I'd like to bid everybody a good night.
Bye.